Hey there, all you creepers and reapers. Welcome to another episode of the Femme Fatalities. I'm your co-hostess, Anna, and I'm here with...
Hey, Gravelings and Frightlings, it's Margaret, and thanks for joining me and Anna as we continue on our righteous adventure. Anna, what films are we talking about today?
That's right, listeners. You might think we're just playing a game, but we're really here to talk to you about the next three episodes or films in the filmography of Saw. So,
Yes.
without further ado, staying alive, we're talking about 3, 4, and 5. But before we get too far into it, there are some triggers.
Yes. Let's see. Self-harm, being held captive, ultimatums, coercion, kidnapping, animal guts, mouth being sewn shut. What else, Anna?
So we've got filial loss,
Mhm.
also child death. We've got, well, in 5 and 6, really, we've got child death, pregnancy loss,
Addiction.
violence, violence towards pregnant women,
Mhm.
which is kind of its own subgenre. I think a lot of it is going to be grief, loss, trauma for 3 and 4. For 5, abuse of power, revenge, which can definitely be a trigger for people as well. And of course, the regular old blood, guts, and gore that I love and live for. We got plenty of that.
Yes, and I'm going to touch on 5, the revenge for some people, because revenge is a horror subgenre. This is not that, and correct me if you disagree, Anna. For me, it was not that satisfying revenge where I'm like, yes, and I'm along with the
No.
protagonist. I am there. This was like, you're just a jerk and you're using
Uh-huh.
revenge to
Yeah.
justify not being a likable person. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for satisfying revenge,
This is
this
not
is
it.
not 5. Just stay away. And also, 3 belongs with 1 and 2. We
Yeah.
divided this a bit weird when we did. 3 feels like the summarizing of 1 and
Mm-hmm.
2, completing that storyline. 4 and
Yeah.
5 is moving us into a new storyline. And Anna and I'll get into it. I believe she agrees with me from previous conversations. We move into a new, very unlikable protagonist.
Yeah.
Both John Kramer fans, we are fans of him as the protagonist. His new accomplice, no, my notes say cringe next
Yeah.
to him. Like I didn't like him. And
No.
somebody on Reddit made a comment too between him and the FBI agent in 5 that they looked so much alike that throughout the movie they struggled to follow the storyline. And I
Mm-hmm.
agree with that because sometimes I'm like, wait, which person are we? Oh, wait, this is that person. And so if you watch these, you might find yourself struggling
Mm-hmm.
to follow the storyline because you have 2 actors that look very similar and they both are in law enforcement.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, in reference to 5, when we started watching it, I was like, oh, this movie annoyed me the last time I saw it, and it's going to annoy me again, just because, as Margaret mentioned, it deviates so much from the formula that we're used to.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that it's very unfortunate because it really could have been great if they took certain elements and continued with them.
Yes, and I think viewers, listeners who are horror fans, being fans of the genre, we often witness this happening, especially in movies that have longevity and have multiple facets. When the creative team changes, it loses part of the storyline. Jason takes Manhattan, or we could look at the Freddys. The only one that
Yeah.
I'm gonna say is consistent is Chucky, but that's also
Yeah.
because Chucky has the
Yeah.
same core creative team behind it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, even to the show now, the Chucky show. Like, it's still some of those core people that are involved to kind of keep that legacy going. And we really do miss out on a lot when certain characters in film development change. And I almost think that sometimes they should ask the fans. Like, a great example of this, Damien Leone posted on social media, like, hey, we're working on Terrifier 4. Like, so excited. What do you guys think? And, you know, like, I was one of the people, I left like a kill suggestion, and like, I think it got liked, right? So at least I know like it was acknowledged and read. And yeah, I think it's great to ask your fans and interact and see what we live for and what we enjoy, because that's important. And that's really lost in 5, because you still have the splatter kills. You've got some great creative traps too. Like, I love the self trach. I thought that was super creative, super clever. But then everything else just was flat.
Yeah, well, it deviates. We go
Yeah.
into the detective's story. It deviates from what we loved
Mm-hmm.
about 1, 2, and 3. We have
Yeah.
at least 2 people that are imprisoned and trying to figure out how to get out. They're trying to solve the puzzle, and then the puzzle pieces are
Mm-hmm.
coming together about who the people are and what they did and what's happening to where they
Mm-hmm.
come together. 4 and 4, not as much as 5. 5,
Yeah.
it felt like the imprisoned people were an afterthought. That
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, we're doing a saw, so we
Mhm.
have to go ahead
Yeah.
and keep this. And it,
Somewhere. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think too that when it got to the point where some of the games were no win, that really becomes problematic, because it's not John's plan. It's not Jigsaw John Kramer. It's not his plan. It's not his work. And I feel like this is a totally like 90s kid analogy here, but I feel like John Kramer is Mr. Miyagi and Amanda is Daniel Russo. And then the police detective is like Hilary Swank.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have the same thing going for it. Like, you love the original, you get attached to it. It's part of the essence of the film, and then it drastically changes.
You see, I think that's why we like Amanda. We see her struggle, we see her jealousy, we see her hurt, we
Yes.
see her not being able to trust. We see these deeply
Mhm.
human relationships. And then in comes 5 with, he's not likable. I can't think of his name. He's not likable. And if we go back to 3, I found 3 kind of hard because I felt like it was like wrapping up the story. I almost felt like I was like, I feel like when you're watching your favorite TV show and you know it's the last season,
Yeah.
so they're like, let's bring it all together. So it's like, ooh, this one, it had that sense to me. I
Yeah.
know you really like 3 also because we get into John
Mhm.
Kramer's backstory. We
Yes.
really understand his grief story. And so yes, 3 is
Yeah.
great for his character arc.
Well, and I like 3 and 4 when you mention like his grief story. I love that we meet Jill, and who's absolutely lovely, wonderful, amazing. And I'm not saying lovely sarcastically. I actually mean like she is great in person. Met
Mhm.
her at a few horror conventions. A complete doll. Love her. Um, but we learn about her grief and what she's going through. And something that I really notice is when she's being interrogated, they're so aggressive and cruel towards her. And how many times has someone lost a partner or a spouse, even if it's a partner or spouse that you're estranged from, and there's no sensitivity from others?
Mhm.
So I really enjoy that that was included, because that speaks so much to real life. Of course, most of us don't find ourselves partnered or linked up with Jigsaw, but in the general application of human behavior, I think that that happens more often than not. Oh, well, they're not your partner anymore. Oh, you guys hadn't been talking, or oh, he's been dead for this period of time. You should be fine now. And there just wasn't a lot of sensitivity.
Ooh, yes. Thank you for touching on that like pre-disenfranchised grief that she's experiencing, or we could say disenfranchised grief as it's
Mm-hmm.
related to life losses, that even though she's no longer with John, they
Yeah.
lost a baby. She lost a
Yeah.
partner. Like her partner completely changed. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where we see the birth of his vengeance. Because if she
Absolutely.
hadn't have opened the clinic and the guy
Mm-hmm.
hadn't been wanting to get his fix, the baby wouldn't have died. And then his relationship still would have
Mm-hmm.
been intact.
Absolutely. Well, and even if we look at Jill even more, the cumulative loss that she's experienced, right? So they lost the child. She lost John at least twice. I would say three times because, of course, they were no longer together. He became sick and died. She found out that he was Jigsaw. So there are a lot of losses that she's going through. She's probably lost her faith in humanity to some extent because of what happened at the clinic. She may have lost her job, her profession. Um, I would have loved for Saw 5 to delve more into her life,
Yes.
and maybe she was continuing his work somehow, and that was a big twist. I think that that would have been super ideal for me.
Yes, I agree. Because you're right, we don't get a lot of her. And I again really appreciate you bringing up all her losses and even tying it back into that disenfranchised grief that happens when we lose somebody that society says we can't mourn. So I don't know if you're
Mm-hmm.
watching, I think it's Happy Face Killer, the TV show. She's the daughter of a serial killer who is in prison, and she hides this from everybody because, again, society makes all these judgments. So if my spouse is a serial killer, when they die, I can't mourn them. We often do that with like exes or our LGBTQIA community. Oftentimes, when they experience death, they can't openly mourn them because society says
Yeah.
no. And so you're right. We don't get to get into her story. We know that she tried to connect with John and he completely shut down, and really
Mm-hmm.
the death of the baby was really what
It was just,
created him, or
yeah,
Jig.
it was the catalyst. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that, in Western society too, we don't talk about miscarriage, um, you know, in any scenario, how it happens, right? So the person carrying the child doesn't get to talk about it. We have to pretend that it didn't happen. But the partner that contributed half of the genetic makeup of the child, they definitely can't talk about how they feel. So I think showing how John shuts down, that is a very, I don't want to say typical response, but I think that's something we do tend to see in cisgender males when their cisgender female partner miscarries. Um, Also, I mean, in terms of how he grieves, he's definitely not an intuitive griever.
No.
Um, he puts everything into his work. Um, but I think that with him also, he's experiencing loss upon loss upon loss. So you've lost your child, then you find out you're dying, so you're going to lose your life. Your marriage is on the rocks, if not gone. And then the car accident where you almost die suddenly. Here you're thinking, oh, okay, I have a few months to live at least. And then, oh, my life could have just been gone in a split second. And I wasn't even planning for that.
Yes. Oh, and I thank you again for like bringing up how we see him, and also bringing up the grief that happens with
Mm-hmm.
miscarriages. And yes, this movie does, we get to see that. Like, what happens to the spouse? What is that
Mm-hmm.
experience like? He shuts down. And again, that's something, as you were saying, society does not allow people to grieve for, because it, right? Society goes, oh, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
At least the baby wasn't born or whatever, all the ways that
Mhm.
then it's dismissed and not like, yeah, that really sucks. This profoundly, like grief often
Mhm.
does, profoundly changes people's life regardless of if it's a 110-year-old person
Mhm.
or a baby before it's born.
Absolutely. And I think too, with miscarriage, one of the things that people hear so often is, oh, well, you can try and have another baby. And when we look at the age of Jill and John, I almost feel like this was their miracle child.
Mhm.
Like this was something they had been wanting and trying for a very long time. And that's, you can't just go get pregnant again.
No,
Um,
and yeah, because it feels like I got that sense too, right? Because the door hits her in her stomach and she
mhm,
loses the baby. And I was thinking, wow, I wonder if this was like a hard conception or what happened that
mhm,
that caused her to lose the baby. Because there
mhm.
are stories of people being in car accidents or these
Oh,
things
yeah.
happening where you think that they would lose the baby and they don't. So
Mhm,
it seemed like the baby was already hanging on. Maybe she was having a really rough pregnancy, and this thoughtful person who only cared about himself
yeah.
killed the baby.
Right. Absolutely. And I do think using him as like a test subject completely made sense,
Mm,
right? Because that speaks to the revenge. That's the type of revenge that you're like, okay, cool. In contrast to the detective where it's just like, ew. Um, but once again, I think that with John Kramer, the fragility of life, it's not just that he has cancer, he views himself as having a death sentence, the amount of loss that he has experienced and how deeply that has impacted him encourages him to make meaning in his own way of setting up these games for people so that they see life in a different way, from a different perspective. They're going to do what it takes to continue to live and then appreciate their lives a lot more. And I feel like that is close to part of John Kramer's perspective. And
mhm.
sometimes with movies like this, it's very easy to get caught up in the gore and the splatter and all the fun effects, which, I love. But really, when we get down to the core, there's a very powerful message.
Yes. Ooh. And I appreciate you bringing that up, like the core of who John is. And we see that with Amanda and her
Hmm.
struggling to trust him, to see that. What do you think happens with the detective? Because Amanda's trying to learn. She is influenced
Hmm.
by John. She's struggling. We
Yeah.
can see why he picked her because she wants to appreciate life.
Hmm.
What do you think happened with the detective? I don't feel like the detective appreciates life. I don't feel like the
No.
detective's like, yeah, I'm here for your mission.
Mm-mm.
What do you think happened there?
You know, that's a good question because I feel like he's not appreciative, he's not thoughtful, he doesn't really show any sort of concern or care towards other people. Um, I mean, even when you look at the other detective, like Donnie Wahlberg, and he's sitting there pretending this whole time to be part of the trap when he's not. It's like this person is another detective. This is someone on the force with you. This is supposed to be your comrade. This is supposed to be someone you support, and there's no allegiance at all. I would venture to say, the thought that my only allegiance is to myself. I think he's far beyond that. I don't even know that he has enough of a true sense of self to make that statement. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, again, thank you. I wonder, because then we see 4 and 5. So Amanda makes the unescapable trap.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely see the change in creative hands. And so now Amanda's character, who we thought we understood, who's very
Yeah.
loyal to John, is now like her character becomes inconsistent, which is hard
Mm-hmm.
as viewers because we
Yes.
expect certain things out of our characters. So then we get this
Mm-hmm.
new character and he doesn't fit with it. And So I wonder if it was just something in the writing that, or the creative process, that strayed away. They forgot who John was at the core, who Amanda was at the core, and then tried to make us follow these unbelievable arcs for new characters. Why would John pick the detective? And with Amanda, like, I could I could stretch that when she made the unescapable trap, that she was struggling with how she feels about other women, because it is for the
Yeah.
female detective. We know she has problems with law enforcement. So I could
Mhm.
see her being like working something out in her own process with the female
Yeah.
detective.
Yeah.
Male
Or if it was
detective,
like,
yeah.
yeah. Like, or even like with Amanda, if the female detective had like busted her and that's when she had to do hard time, or she associated it with some sort of negative experience, like that person. The other thing too is like they could have easily made it so Amanda and the male detective who becomes like Prodigy are working together behind the scenes and they have some sort of romantic connection. So them doing all of this is so they can be done with the games and they can go off and start like a life together, right? So there are so many different things that could have been happening that just were not.
Yes, it feels like they decided to kill Amanda, and that is where it was
Mhm.
going. And there's so many other ways they could have killed her, not giving her, which is a theme that it seems like we've seen
Yeah.
lately in movies, female bodied persons having conflict with other female bodied persons and
Mhm.
lacking, right? She is against the female doctor, and we see
Yeah.
John being kind, and this almost that women get insecure around
Yeah.
other women. And again, if we look at John,
Mhm.
we would think it would be touching into the societal aspects of why is there this conflict here? How is
Mhm.
this born? How do we, because he's also about like coming together. We see that in the
Yeah.
Traps of Five. If people had come together as a team, they would have.
Yeah.
And it felt like the movies go into society is individualized. And so we are
Yeah.
going to go after each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm with you. I like the teamwork makes the dream work idea of a lot of the earlier films because I think it speaks to a lot of people thrive in chaos. But if you stop and take a few minutes to really look at what's going on around you and formulate a plan where everyone can contribute and work together, it's going to be much easier. It'll almost simplify the entire process. And um, often it's so easy to neglect that idea or that concept. And I think that in three, how everything was kind of set up, I really did enjoy that because it, although it was not like a team type of scenario that we were looking at primarily, it was still encouraging the doctor's husband to confront his grief. And we were talking about this earlier. I definitely think three is like the true like grief movie of all of them. I think that four is more of like the formative loss movie and five is just there. But as we see him progress through these traps, he starts to really think about and learn about forgiveness. And I think with the judge, when he rescues him, I'm like, okay, we're starting to turn a corner. But then, of course, next is the driver of the car that resulted in the child's life being no more. And the conflict, I think that the actor did a great job because you can feel his pain and his internal conflict about this. Like, you weren't punished by the law. I can punish you right now, but at the end of the day, we learn he still has the same problems.
Yes. And thank you for touching on four, where five completely misses the mark. In four, we see somebody who is still so human. He is so caught up in
Yeah.
his grief. He has lost his
Mhm.
child, but all the people that are responsible for his child's loss, he
Yeah.
still tries to save them. He still tries to do something to take care of them, which is right. That is all what Jigsaw is about. Like, I'm mad at you. You hurt
Mhm.
me. I still value your
Yeah.
life. And I appreciated him as a
Mhm.
character. Now, five could continue that theme with, like, again, like you said,
Yeah.
teamwork makes the dream work. We're here
Mhm.
together. And five feels like it's like, no, we're going into the individualism of
Yeah.
society and we're really gonna
Mhm.
exemplify it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and um the other thing too is at the end when the dad finally gets to his wife, the huge loss, right?
Mhm.
Like, oh, I can breathe now. And how often does that happen when we're going through our own change, loss, grief journey where we think we're finally through, oh, we can breathe now, and then something happens and new grief triggers old grief. Um and it works both ways too. Yeah. Oh, this really great thing happened. I got accepted for a PhD program, or I got a promotion at work, or I'm starting this new volunteer position and super excited. And then you're going through like the joy and excitement and thrill of that. And then when you're like finally like settled in, you get like another piece of good news. So then you're like riding on that same train of excitement, and it's just building and building. So it's not always like negative or sad or grief filled. It can be a positive experience too, but a lot of time in life it's one after the other, after the other, after the other. It's not kind of a one note deal, whether something in our life is happening that's very jarring and we associate with negative emotions and thoughts and behaviors, or something that's incredibly fulfilling and joyful. A lot of the time it's going to be a few things piled on top of each other. And I think that the movies really illustrate that very nicely, with the exception of five. Um, just that things consistently are happening.
Yes, ooh, and what a beautiful, like, thing to point out, like, that they demonstrate, like, life keeps going regardless of if we're grieving or
Mhm.
where we are in life, and I'm curious, do you feel like, especially in 4 and 5, they lost the magic of weaving together the puzzle pieces, so everything comes together in this almost elegant way where it's like, "Ooh, here's all this put together." And 4
Yeah.
and 5 felt kinda sloppy to me, where it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, yeah, we gave you all these plot points, so now we're just gonna show you how they fit together," where the
Mhm.
first 3 felt like it was planned out, almost like an M. Night movie where
Yeah.
he's methodically planning everything out, so when the big reveal comes together, you're like, "Oh." 4 and 5, I was
Mhm.
like, "Wait, what's happening? What are you trying to get me to believe? Because that doesn't feel like Amanda. What's going on with John?
Mhm.
What's happening here?"
Yeah.
This big reveal just felt sloppy, like somebody promised me the most delicious meal ever, and
Mhm.
they're like, "Okay, here, I brought you some
Yeah.
McDonald's," and I'm like, "Wait, like, what
Mhm.
happened here?"
It did, but I did kind of appreciate the character surprises, um, in when we had, the beginning where the doctor was leaving, and she's like, "What do you want from me?" And he's like, "A divorce." So this whole time you assume that's her husband, and then come to find out she's having an affair with him. So I
Mhm.
thought that there were like bits and pieces that remained very clever, but you're right. Like, I feel like that was an appetizer. I was waiting for the full meal and just didn't quite get it.
Yes, because even the beginning is at the beginning of 5, right, where they're in that room and their mouths are sewn shut, and I'm like, "Ooh, where are we going here?" Like,
Yeah.
"Alright," and then I was like, that just felt like a
Mhm.
big letdown.
Oh,
Of
it's in 4, the
oh,
beginning. And,
mhm.
yeah, and, cause the ice scene at the end of that one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
I was gonna ask your favorite kill, you brought that up. I think that's, like, my favorite kill is poor Donnie Wahlberg. I was like, "Yes, he was so unlikable."
Yeah. I bet his ears
Even
are
though
burning
he
right
was
now.
even that feels not like Jigsaw. That feels more like detective, like, we're gonna hold
Mhm.
this person captive for a long period of time. I was like,
Yeah.
that didn't even fit
Well,
with
and
who we.
yeah, at some point realistically he would have lost consciousness, slipped off of the ice, and that would have been the end of it. It
Yes.
would have. When you look at like the physiological and physical aspect of what we can take, that would not have happened. And that's, you're right, like a lot of the games just really differed because some of them I could really see like, okay, systemically and physically that your body can withstand this for a period of time. But yeah, and even like the one where I think it was in 3 with the acid and the key, and that was the female detective that
Yeah,
Amanda had to. Yeah, I'm like, why didn't she just dump out the acid?
that's what
But
I
I guess,
was thinking too.
yeah, because you're gonna stick your whole hand in there, that's gonna impact your phalanges pretty well. Just, oh, I don't know why I sounded so whiny when I was like, dump it out. But
Well, yeah,
I
because
just,
we're like, why don't you? And I think it touches into that when we're scared, when we're panicked,
mm-hmm,
we're not rationally thinking. We're thinking, how do
mm-hmm,
I get out of here
yes,
the quickest way? Because oftentimes
yeah,
the quickest way is the least damage to our bodies. That's how our survival brain works. And so
yeah,
it's that panic, oh my gosh, I just have to do this. And I'm like, okay, whoa. Like, and that's what I think we appreciate about the FBI agent, because yeah, he's drowning. He's like, wait, no, I got a
yeah,
pen in my pocket. I'm gonna think this out, and I'm
yeah.
gonna, yes,
Just take care of it myself. Yeah, which is very clever, very creative. That's, I have to say, I don't relate to him at all. But the 5th one, that he's my favorite character because it was just like, oh, okay, that's, I like the ingenuity there. It was great, great job.
yeah,
Yay! Even though but for the time we had him, it was good. Yeah.
yes.
So I do have to ask you, of these 3, what is your favorite trap game scene?
Ooh, well, I like when Donnie Wahlberg's character gets smashed by giant blocks of ice, even though it was very
Yeah.
unlikely. I was like, okay, that would not ever happen as long as he had been standing there. Um, The one was interesting with like the couple, right? And they're in that classroom, the creepy, like the principal and his wife. I thought that was creative with like were they like arrows or whatever that was like connecting them. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I enjoyed the couple as well. I was like, oh, she had a will to live. And also, I feel like, if we assume he was physically abusive to the daughter, he's probably hitting the wife too. Is at least what my assumption was, because statistically that's pretty aligned. So I was like, good for her. you know? um, I think I really have to say when the last 2 make it to like the saw room, I think that was in 3, and they're putting their hands in, and then they're like, we did it. Like, you're missing half of your blood. But, I'm like, maybe they'll be in the next one because definitively we don't know if they actually made it or died. So could be. But I thought that was kind of funny to me. It
Mhm.
was like, it was haha funny. Just, they worked together, they did it, but it's like, you did it,
Yes.
but you didn't. And I
Yes.
also have to say, like, it's not a game, but when the doctor performs the cranial procedure, although the special effects were great, it is a little bit different in person, but I enjoyed that she kept him awake because most brain surgeries, that is part of the procedure is to
Mhm.
have the patient or client awake. So I was happy to see it look like they did some research for that.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That was good.
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah, like it was more accurate than other movies though. I'm such a nerd. So I have to ask, of these three, which character do you most relate to?
Yes, let me double check my notes and see if I put for Saw 3 I put no one. Um yeah, like for the three of them, maybe I'm gonna go with the female FBI agent, like who's
Mhm.
there and she's smart, but she's really feels like an afterthought to the
Yeah.
story. We're more there to drive the main detective's story or the FBI
Mhm.
agent. Sorry, but yeah, there wasn't a lot of relatable people for me. How about you?
Probably the dog at the hotel. Just like, I'm
Ooh.
chilling, living life. I'm here. Not really involved in any of this. I'm just here looking like, I'm chilling. Dog.
Mhm.
Yeah. And yeah, that was, to me, that was a pretty great game also. And
Yes.
um I didn't feel bad when he got pulled apart at all. That is one thing I have to say. Although they're straying from the film's formula, they made people less and less likable as we go along. So the more creative the deaths are, you don't feel as bad. You're just like, oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. So that was great. Like you're like, yes, this guy needs
Mhm.
to
He
die.
needs he needs to go. Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. So do you have any type of game or like theme or idea that you want to see in the new movie when it comes out?
Ooh, you're so good at these questions. I don't know. Please tell me yours because I love that your brain's probably already there.
It's demented as it is. I do have one. I would love for someone to be put in like a life-size what's it called? It has the sand in it, the timer, not
I
a
know what you're
looking
talking
glass,
about.
an hourglass. Like,
Yes.
yeah, a life-size hourglass. And for it to have like sand in the top. And then when the game starts, it starts releasing it. And so
Ooh.
equivocally, when your time is up, it really is up because you're in the hourglass. But I thought that would be really cool metaphorically. And I think that they could do something really interesting with it too. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be sand, but it could be, I don't know, maybe the person's a barista that cusses at all the customers and it's, ground coffee or, um, that someone who tries to sweeten things up for their own purpose. So it's sugar, something like that. I think that could be really
Ooh.
cool too.
Oh, I love that. That's so creative. You made me think of the cell. So I was like, ooh, how could we like punish somebody instead of just kidnapping innocent women, putting somebody in that cell and then
Mhm.
slowly adding the water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's a good one too. Okay. Well, you've heard it, producers. We would like hourglasses and water traps. Yes, please. Thank you. And also, listeners, what would you like to see in the new Saw? What kind of
Yes.
game do you think that people should play?
Yes, please share them with us. We want to hear.
Mhm. Absolutely. And we're going to continue this. So we're going to keep on trucking through the next several and talking about them until we get to the piece de resistance, hopefully the new one. Or it
Hopefully.
could just be a piece of, I don't know what else. If it's not excellent, it could be a piece of popcorn still in our tummies from seeing it at the theater. But in either case, we're excited. Let us know too. We've been doing this. We've been doing the Final Destinations. Are there any other series that you want us to talk about? What do you think? What touches you? What's super cool? How do you value life? What are your thoughts on John Kramer and his theories and his loss? Hit us up. Let us know. Please, we would love to know your thoughts and ideas. And also, we've been talking about some pretty heavy stuff in this episode. So if you have experienced child loss or miscarriage, and you're experiencing difficulty connecting with your partner, navigating through that loss, there are supports and services near you. Please check out your local mental health organization, hospice, a lot of different organizations. There are also many, many remote options as well if you feel more comfortable to navigate this journey with a counselor or therapist through your own home and an area that's very comfortable for you.
Yes, 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 yes. Find those supports. They are out there. There are people out there that want to support you, that want to help guide you on your journey.
Absolutely. And if you need any suggestions for supports, please message us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We are more than happy to provide suggestions as well. And don't forget, until next time, drink your delicious Bruja Brew, eat those coffin cookies, and howl at the moon. And don't forget,
Like, subscribe, follow, comment. Thank you for watching and listening.
until next
We'll
time,
see you next
bye.
time.